I heard you mention the word interoperability, something we have been focusing a lot on here at MovieLabs. We have a white paper that hopefully everyone will be able to take a look at. And we're really focused on describing what interoperability means in the context of the 2030 vision and what we need to do. We're trying to enable better data exchange, automation. Ultimately, we love the parts of the workflow that we want to assemble to be much more easily composable, recomposable, almost like building blocks. How do you guys look at interoperability, and what are you guys focusing on to enable that?
A vibrant, dynamic industry is really all about choice, right? We want to make sure that our users, our customers, are able to choose and build their workflows in the way that they want. And that has always been a tenet of how we build our tools.
With Flow, which is the platform that we're building to try to achieve a lot of these 2030 vision results, interoperability is really the core central point of it. We want to organize all the data and centralize it so we can do all these things like the software-defined workflows and do things in a more efficient way. But the really important point here that we're trying to do is to move away from point-to-point connections between different applications and move more of a hub and spoke model, right? So we want all of these different applications connecting to data flows, not other applications. Because once you start connecting to other applications, it becomes fragile. If customers want to change a particular application in their workflow, there's additional work involved that breaks. But we actually don't really want one particular application to even be aware of what the adjacent applications are, because we want those to be able to change freely. So if you have this hub and spoke model, you're signed up to sort of like data notifications and things like that, not necessarily the application that generated that, because that's all being managed internally in the system.
First and foremost, in any of these workflows, there's usually multiple tools and vendors in the mix. So it's not just a one-stop shop. So we realize we need to create an environment where all these tools and vendor systems can interoperate on somewhat of a level playing field. So we believe in it very strongly. We understand that our customers think in terms of end-to-end workflow, and there are many tools in the chain, and we need to make sure that those tools run on AWS natively and also interoperate.
But there is so much benefit to allowing teams to share content and use the cloud for that and be able to work collaboratively, even in audio. That's an important area where it can happen. And I think there's going to be some innovation. We've shown everybody some new innovation around picture and sound workflows and interoperability between Pro Tools and Media Composer. We're already showing some of the early signs of that. I would tell you that when I look at the longer term innovation we're doing a couple years out from now, cloud will be an important part of that workflow, because we'll be allowing people to share content, work together, and work in very fluid ways. And we will have to use cloud to leverage that innovation.
My whole career has been spent in and around the film business, which is largely a standard-based organization. But it was nice to see that there was a conversation going at the studio level about how can we take this to a new place, and that doesn't happen very often. So I was very intrigued by that.
The way we see ourselves competing is based on workflows and the tools that we build and how that enables artists, rather than on, standards for data and interoperability. And we don't have to own that in order to succeed in our mission. And it's actually better, right? Our customers will see more value if things like OpenAsset.io are implemented broadly, across the pipeline in as many applications as possible. And the open source community is a great way to do that, to help encourage that adoption, but also to make sure that we're not developing in a vacuum. We're developing with other contributors who also care about these standards.
The way that we develop from an engineering perspective, we realize that, customers have a lot of choices in the way that they actually build things. And sometimes you're going to have very different creative choices. And so sometimes if I want all that stuff to live in the Microsoft cloud, for example, then I better have the best interoperability between a lot of these partners who are going to be fundamental to those workflows.
We also know that customers are still in an environment where they've got a hybrid platform. They've got significant investment in on-premises equipment and tools, but they want to take advantage of cloud. So we have systems and capabilities to enable them to, for example, sync their data from their on-prem systems into AWS very quickly, or to use a standard file system that they're comfortable using and extend that into the cloud, or tie their local network into our network so they can directly connect into our services.
The first thing that we have to do when we think about interoperability is focus on those exchange points, right? Where between different applications. I think there's probably room for a very crisp interoperability schema that allows a common language for everybody to speak. That really is where we want to get to, is where everybody is, speaking a language that is understood, even if, every company might have their own particular extensions or variants to it.
I think once people realize that there are other people trying to solve these same problems, they're not working. Yes, exactly. It's validating what they're doing. They're not in a silo anymore. They're not alone in this thinking, and it propels the migration forward in a very positive way. So I think people have suddenly realized I'm not the only one. This is great.
Interop in this march toward the future is essential. I think that one of the biggest unlocks for that is going to be sort of these open source, right? Open source, OTIO, OCIO, open asset, like really making sure that we're all sort of leaning into this shared language and making sure that we're, not building bespoke workflows that are locking people into these walled gardens, and instead saying, how can we build open source projects where everybody's contributing and everybody's able to sort of have their say, but also looking to future-proof.
In the cloud world, this is an economy that you look at, in all other industries. This is an API-driven environment. This is API first, API-driven. Interop for me, my worry about us using just the word interop is that really harkens to I share a little bit of data with you, or I give you a command, or it's not quite the same thing as being tightly integrated through an API-driven environment. And that's where we all have to get to. I mean, we're all guilty of it as technology vendors. We've got to really move to an API-first environment, because that is really what's going to unlock innovation. That's what's going to unlock the ability to create a lot of efficiencies across workflows. And so I absolutely support the initiative, and I think it's terrific. But I think we have, as an industry, have to use a little different language to up our game a bit. And that's really all I mean by it. I think interoperability is very important, but we got to do it in a way as an industry that's different than how we have done it, or we're going to get the same results just in the cloud. And I think I know that the MovieLabs vision is for something much, much more rich than what we have done as an industry.